So we're going to do 10-minute core. Often you're getting up, maybe you're doing this in the morning or after a ride or something like that. So I like to start on the floor because that's the easiest thing to motivate and we're already there, right? So why don't we get onto our backs? So we're thinking glute bridge. So you can face away from the camera whenever you feel comfortable with the glute bridge. And we're going to go down right onto our back. And what we want to do here is we're firing from our hips. So we're trying to open our hips. And so we're thinking contracting our hips. And we're moving slowly, but making sure at the top we're actually getting sort of a good contraction there. And there's all sorts of variety we can do. We're going to go for 10 reps. Everyone's doing this with me. And we're going here. So we could certainly make this a one leg. We could put a weight right on our hip, which is sort of uncomfortable, but this would help. And at the top, I'm trying to really squeeze, pause for a breath, come down. And we're coming back up. And we're just trying to have a rhythm there of maybe 2 seconds up, maybe 2 seconds down, and a bit of a contraction at the top. So this is our glute bridge. And again, I could transition to a one leg. I could make this into a weighted maneuver. But we're just trying to get some of this hip opening and then also some contraction from our hips. So this is on our back. So we'll say that's 10 reps. We're going to flip to sort of our side now. Again, we're going to try and do our back, our side, our stomach, sort of a push-up. So we're going to be here. This is sort of like our Jane Fonda side plank type position. Again, you can face away from the camera if you like. And what we're going to do is we're going to take this top foot. I have this bottom leg is bent so that I don't roll too much forward. I'm going to try and be fairly upright and proud. I can put a hand under my head if I like. But the key here is that this top leg, I'm actually going to rotate my toe down and I'm going to try and lead with a heel. Anything on our side plank, moving from our plank, our band walking, sideways walking. So I'm going to try and lift this leg 10 times, but I'm going to try and keep that internal rotation and move through this Jane Fonda-esque, sort of a modified side plank. I'm just laying flat on the ground, so I'm not in a side plank. But I'm just trying to move here for 5, 6, and it's not a huge motion. I'm not testing the range of my motion here. I'm just moving through an 8, 9, and 10, leading with that hip. I'm just trying to find that little range that I'm moving through. I'm going to rotate around. You guys can flip around if you want and not even face me anymore, and that's fine too. I'm going to move to this other side plank, this Jane Fonda. I don't know how many people are going to get the Jane Fonda thing, but the idea that we're laying on our side here. Again, you can have hand here. And I'm just trying to find this little range here that I'm moving where it feels pretty hard. I could certainly add a band to this to make it harder. You could do a bunch of different things to make this. You could certainly go into a side plank and do this, but I find that this really gets that activation from that side hip that a lot of us are trying to get, right? This is that glute, glute medius, that side of our hip that a lot of us struggle with pain, discomfort, tightness. So sometimes just getting that contraction is good. 9 and 10. And then we're going to go, again, to complete the cycle. That's both sides. We've been on our back. Now we're going to go to sort of a tabletop. Okay, so there's lots of variations here. I'm going to try and just go through sort of a fundamental one. I'll point out some differences we can do. We're going to do, this is our bird dog. And what usually happens with this is everyone's going for height, right? So what we're going to try and do is think straight out and just contracting this hip, right, where I'm going out, straight arms. So just like a bird dog, I'm pointing, maybe at the bird. I'm trying to keep that chin tucked. And again, we're going to come down and we're going to alternate, which is sort of the trick with a lot of these things, is that we're alternating. Okay, and I'm trying to think here, I'm getting pulled apart. So pretend someone's grabbing your wrist, grabbing your heel, and you have this tension through your body. Okay, and I'm alternating. We're going to go for 10 again. This is 2 for me. Hopefully everyone's keeping a better rhythm. Okay, working through. Trying to breathe, but I'm staying tight through my belly. Okay, and again, thinking here, even down here, more than trying to reach for the sky and show that you can bend in half, right? We're thinking tension, and we're thinking alternating this stance, right? This is our running, this is our cycling, if you think about it, right? Where we're switching which one's contracting from the hip, which one's on the top, which one's the stance leg. Okay, and we're rotating through. You'll find that this hand and the knee that are on the ground are actually the key things. Right? This is where we have to put tension into the ground. The ones that we're lifting actually aren't that important. I think I'm on 7. Just working through that breathing. I'm on 9. Okay. So from there, another one that I like to do, that this is for our sort of shoulder mobility. So we're going to work into sort of a downward dog position. Whatever that is for you. I know everyone's got different hamstrings, so whatever works. But what we're going to try and do is we're going to try and go from sort of a plank and then push back into where we're getting our shoulders opened up a bit. And this could look a lot, this could be sort of this type of position. But we're going to try and rotate back to a plank, squeezing hips, squeezing quads, holding it, breathing, pressing back into our downward dog, pressing back into our downward dog, pressing back, locking in our plank. For 9. Again, tying that breathing in, tying in that common hip plank. Okay, I'm going to have everyone come up. This is where we're going to start doing a bit more work. So we're going to get into our more lunge. I know Molly did a bit of lunging. So we're going to try and go into a lunge. I'm going to show you a couple variations. We can hold our lunge. So this is a split squat, sort of stance, split stance. So we're going to do 10, and I want you to settle in, and we're going to think contracting those hips. So we're almost getting a bit of a pelvic rotation, which is going to get me a nice stretch here. Here, could I be holding weights? For sure I could, right? I could also, if I was just, again, we're going with no weight today, I could also have those arms overhead for a bit more time overhead. But I'm going to just focus today on breathing and moving through this lunge pattern, getting a nice hip opener. If I'm going to go running today, this is going to be nice to just have this open. And I'm just, again, pausing for a second. And 10 coming up. We're going to switch. A lot of times I go with 10. There's no reason you have to do 10. You could certainly do, till you get a nice burn. Sometimes I'll pick one of the exercises and just push it till it gets hard, or make it more challenging, so we could add weight to just the lunge and everything else could be fairly straightforward. And 10. Okay, I'm going to make you switch back. We're going to take a break here. So you can either keep it in that rotation, we're going to do a second set, or what I like to see is actually a bit more pushing forward. So I'm still staying nice and strong, chin tucked, but I'm going to go into a deeper lunge. Now be feeling this out. If you have knee pain, if you're struggling with hip flexion, you may not get quite as much. But we're going to do 5 here of this deeper split squat. Nice and proud. Again, I could have weights. And 5, this is a variation I really like because it changes it a fair bit and really starts opening up those hips. If we think about how much hip extension, this leg behind me, I'm switching over for 5 here, how much hip extension we need for running, for walking. This is a great mobility exercise, but also is really challenging this sort of deep squat right here. Okay, so that's that. We're getting towards the end here. Everyone's doing awesome. We're going to get into a nice wide stance here. I'm semi on the screen. Okay, so we're going to go, toes are sort of turned out, whatever feels natural here. And we're going to really ease into this. But the other thing we don't do as cyclists is sort of side to side. So let's take I'm not going that deep at all, not even to sort of parallel. And we'll just feel this motion out. This is a lateral squat. Our feet aren't moving. Okay, we can certainly get arms out front. So that's 3 to side. We're going to go for 10. And I just want you to feel it where the right depth is for you. Again, we're going to watch these adductors, these insides of our quads, because we all are going to have maybe not so much movement and so much experience out that way. But this is getting us a nice, again, almost one leg squat here. And I'm just feeling out this lateral lunge. This one, again, we're thinking mobility, we're thinking about opening up range. We're also thinking about some strength, right? I could be holding a dumbbell, right? The advanced maneuver I'll do here for the last rep or two is you can start turning this toe out. This is a really big hamstring load, so don't feel like you need to, but this is where we can sort of start moving to is more of this, what they might call a Cossack. Okay, so that's our lateral lunge. That gets sort of this lateral aspect. We have 2 more exercises I'm going to try and get through. So this one you can either go wider stance. I guess this is how this probably makes the most sense. And what we're going to do is we're going to dip down and try and keep a flat back. Doesn't feel like much. Again, we could add weight. I'm going to rotate just so you can see. So I'm keeping flat back, so ribs are nice and tight. And we're just doing sort of a stiff leg deadlift. That's going to grab these hamstrings. I'm not trying to impress you with how much back flexibility I have here. We're not doing a forward fold. I'm just pushing back into like a stiff leg deadlift. So again, I could be holding, something, a box, a ball, dumbbells, barbells, and I'm just going for 4 or 5. And all I'm looking for here is a bit of pull in my hamstring. You might be here with the flat back, and then you start going into back, right? And so we're just grooving this awareness of what type of position can I get into when I'm lifting something today, right? Picking up dogs off the ground all day long, right? Maybe some kids have to get picked up, briefcases, groceries. So I'm just doing this. You'll also notice this is a lot like our TT position, right? So we're really just grooving this position where at some point today you're probably going to have to do this motion, right? So that's our deadlift. We're going to take that now and we're going to go into everyone's favorite to finish, the finisher. We're going to go into our 1-leg deadlift. So it's the same motion, only what we're going to do is we're going to try and pretend we're pushing our foam roller. Pretend there's something here and I'm pushing. We have the boxes there. And I'm going to try and take this same foot, the right foot, and pretend that there's this space. Pretend I'm trying to push here and then almost pull my foot up, but I can't. There's like a fight. And then I'm going to try and keep that. So if you tried to touch my arm, I wouldn't be able to do it. And I'm going to dip in. Okay, and again, we're just trying to get the leg that's staying on the ground to get a bit of hamstring. And we're trying to stay fairly stable. I'm going to rotate just so you guys can see me. We're on rep 3. Right, I'm pushing out. I'm going to move a little closer to you. Okay, for 4. A little closer still. 5. 6. Now we could make this a lot harder by switching which sides we're stance on. We won't do that today. We could add a dumbbell. Right? We could add a barbell. Right? We could do a lot of different things to make this more challenging. But for a lot of us, this is, you can see my foot is shaking, my knee is shaking. This stability is very challenging. Okay, so that's about 10. I'm going to switch. Okay, and same idea. This arm, very, very strong. If you came to push it, same thing with this leg. Okay, I'm going to rotate a bit, keep going for 3. Okay, so I have a slight bend maybe here. And I'm pushing. Again, this isn't like me going for a huge donkey kick. It's that same motion we did in that bird dog on the ground, right? Where I'm trying to compress, trying to breathe. This is getting us ready to run today, to walk today, to go through whatever we're doing today. And 10. Very good. Okay, we're with 2 minutes left. And so I think what we'll do to finish here is just look at a quick little cool down exercise. We'll call it mobility stretching. We'll get you down on the floor. A lot of what we're doing with this core, the more you can get up and down off the floor, really, it's going to get harder, right? So it almost doesn't matter. That's all a burpee is or a Turkish get up. So we'll see if we can coordinate this twisting exercise. So I have this, is my shin, obviously, here. I'm facing you, so you're maybe facing me. And I'm sitting in a 90-90. So that means that my back leg is also at 90-90. So it's sitting there too. I don't know the best way to visualize this. If I rotate. So you can see there's sort of 90 degrees at this knee, 90 degrees at this knee. Okay? So if you have your shin of one leg and you're facing me and your legs, both knees are at 90, you're probably pretty good. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually rotate and face to this one side. Okay? And this is a great twisting exercise where I'm going to try and look behind me and just open up this chest. Okay? So it's often very challenging to get this rotation. And you've talked about this in the yoga where we can breathe into this, let our belly come out, big deep breath, and a little bit of a twist. For those of us with knee hamstring, if I kick this foot towards you, you have to look at the bottom of my foot, but you can get this nice sort of IT band hip sort of tenderness. You might not be completely straight, but this other leg you can sort of lean into it. So this exercise I like because A, just sitting 90-90 is going to be challenging, but any sort of like hunting around you can do, extending of the one leg and leaning, you're going to find if it's a knee pain, if it's a hip, discomfort, tightness. And then what we can do is we can flip to 90-90 the other way. So I'm going to rotate and give you a slightly different view. Okay, so now I'm gonna have to twist away from you. Okay, and there's no reps here. We're just breathing, feeling this motion. And again, it could be abdominal, it could be up in the thoracic twisting. It could be, again, extending this one leg and sort of leaning into that bit of hamstring hip, which is something that we see a lot of. You might be getting some nervous sort of stuff in here. And I just want you to hunt around. This is one that, like, if I don't know what to do while I'm watching TV or, you know, sitting around, is I just sort of play around with this different sort of where can I put those knees and rotate through and hunt. So I wanted to leave that with everyone because, you know, as we get into the cross-training season, as we get into going back to school and work and everything else, there's going to be a lot of that. So just playing with some of these different ideas and tools to try and open up that body as you go through your day and as we go through this fall for whatever it will be.